What's going on, everyone? Today I am making a rubber fidget spinner. So you're going to need a couple disposable cups or bowls, a few toothpicks. Then you're going to need some cornstarch. Just regular basic cornstarch will work. Then you're going to need some liquid food dye. And you're going to need some electrical tape, couple bearings, any type of mold. Here I'm just using packaging from other fidget spinners. And then most importantly, you're going to need 100% silicone. It's got to be type 1 and it's got to say 100% silicone for this to work. Now the first thing you're going to want to do is open up this silicone, which was actually harder than I was expecting. You have to cut the tip, and then I didn't know it, but you have to puncture the foil down inside of the silicone tube as well. So here I'm getting a little cup of the cornstarch, and then you're going to make sure you want another cup just empty. So yeah, I tried several times to get the silicone to come out and it wouldn't, and here it was still sealed down inside. So I just used a screwdriver, poked it down inside, and it worked just fine. So get a big glob, how much ever you need. Here I'm getting about half of this cup full of the silicone. Maybe not quite even half. It doesn't take a whole lot depending on how big your mold is that you're using. And then once you got that in there, you're going to want to take your liquid food coloring. Here I've got like 4 different colors, and of course I'm going to use green. So the more drops you put in there, the faster it's going to set up, and the darker the color is going to be. So I put quite a bit in there, and then using the toothpick, just stir it around, mix it all together. If I do this again, I'd like to maybe mix a couple different colors together, see if I can get a swirl, or see if I can come up with maybe more of a lime green type color would look cool, because this came out really dark, almost army green. Now here I'm taking a little bit of electrical tape to wrap 2 of these bearings together, and I'm going to put this down inside of the mold, and this is just to make sure that I don't get any of the silicone where I don't want it, where I'm going to put the actual bearing once I'm finished. And I made it too tall so that way none of the silicone would like go up over top of it or underneath of it. Now the next part's going to get a little messy, so I did put on gloves. This silicone is a little bit toxic while it's still wet, but it says that it's non-toxic once it's fully cured. So you're going to want to do this outside, or at least in a really well ventilated area, and make sure to wear some gloves or something like that. Now transfer it from the one cup into the other cup with some cornstarch in it, and just start mixing it. Now you're going to want to keep adding more and more cornstarch until it is no longer sticky. So that takes more than I was expecting. So just keep mixing it together, and at first it's going to be really messy and sticky, but the consistency you're going for is kind of like Play-Doh. So once you mix in enough of the cornstarch, it's going to stop being sticky, and it's going to start feeling like Play-Doh. So here you can see it's really starting to feel like Play-Doh now. I added a little bit more cornstarch to it just to make sure, and then mix that in pretty well. Here you can see it's not sticking to my fingers anymore, and it's pretty soft. So that's perfect. So I rolled it out kind of into a little green silicone breadstick, so that way I could wrap it around the bearing and put it down into the mold. Now what I didn't do that I should have is made sure that where the two ends meet, that they stick together well. If you have kind of too much cornstarch on there, they won't stick together very well. But basically just push it down into the mold, push it as tight as you can, make sure to get all the air bubbles out. And then once that's done, you're just ready to let it set. Now it does set up pretty quickly, so kind of work fast, don't take too much time. And I let it sit about 15 minutes, but really it was pretty hard within about 5. So here you can see there's no bubbles, and it's kind of down into the sections like I want it to. The backside isn't going to be perfect looking, but I think it'll be okay. So then about 15 or 20 minutes later, here you can see, I took the time to clean up a little bit while it was drying, and it just popped out of the mold pretty easily. You can see there's a couple spots where there's a little bit of cornstarch on it, but I just wiped that off and it looked pretty good. I popped out the center bearing. You can see it's actually pretty strong, pretty tough. So I took one of these bearings, I cleaned it with acetone to try to get any grease out from it so it would spin a little bit better. It's still not the perfect bearing for this, but it worked. It's kind of all I had right now. So I wrapped it about 3 or 4 times in electrical tape so it would be a little bit bigger and fit tighter inside of it. And then I ran a utility knife along the edge just to clean up some of the extra tape so it would look nicer and not get in the way, not rub up against anything. Now you can see it fits in there pretty well and pretty tight. I'm using these little plastic thumb caps that I got with another fidget spinner. And there's the final product. Now it turned out not perfect, but a lot better than I was really expecting. I wasn't sure this would work at all, but it actually worked out pretty cool. It's a little bit thicker on one side and a little bit thinner on the other side, so it does wobble because of that. So if I do this again, I'll just have to make sure it's more uniform thickness, and it'll spin a little bit better. It's actually really strong and really tough. If you thought this was pretty cool and you'd like to see me kind of do some other things, see what else I can do with this silicone rubber, make sure to drop a comment and let me know, so maybe I can try to do a different shape or some other colors, or see what else I can come up with if you thought this was pretty cool.